Engraving is the process of cutting a cavity into a metal lightsaber hilt in order to create a deep pattern, lettering, chevron, image, other design element, essentially. So here's an example of some engraving. This is an Ultrasaber's Grandmaster lightsaber hilt. So engraving does differ from etching, although sometimes people use those terms interchangeably. Engraving is a much deeper, it creates a much deeper cavity, whereas etching is much more surface level. So engraving, you'll be able to kind of feel the cavity on the hilt, or engraving can be applied to other surfaces too. So sometimes people will engrave leather, sometimes they'll engrave acrylic. So, people engrave acrylic blades, for example, that happens. There are many options there, although in the custom saber community specifically, we'll typically see hilts themselves that are engraved. And there are several different methods for engraving. So the most basic is hand engraving. So that's just essentially somebody takes a tool called a graver or burin. That's kind of this specialized chisel tool that allows somebody to kind of remove the metal that way from the hilt. And so that's a very long and tedious process. It's also a very artistic process. So a highly customized hilt may use hand engraving. Another common type of engraving in the custom saber community is laser engraving. So here's an example of laser engraving. That's just where a high heat laser cuts into the metal, and it cuts the grooves into the hilt. And so that's another common method. Now there's also rotary machine engraving, which is kind of a machine, that's pre-programmed to do the engraving in a similar fashion as the hand engraving, but instead of it being the tedious process of somebody doing it by hand, you have a machine doing the job. So that's becoming a bit outdated with the laser engraving, because laser engraving just is a lot more versatile and kind of more technologically advanced. So at any rate, it seems like in the custom saber community, it may be more common to have either the hand engraving for highly customized projects or laser engraving if it's kind of one of the larger custom saber companies sort of mass producing something in a way. Like with this Ultrasaber's hilt, the Grandmaster, this is a very widely released hilt, and the engraving is just included with it, so it's not like they have somebody going by hand doing the engraving on all these hilts. So that's just a quick summary of engraving as it applies to lightsabers especially. Feel free to comment below if you have any thoughts about engraving, etching, and I would love to hear from you as always.